Jerry's cot was not picked up by his colleague Jerry Lynn Dean on the morning of the 14th of June 1983, Gregory immediately started to panic. As Jerry lived nearby in an apartment complex on the northwest side of Houston, Gregory headed over to Jerry's house to see if everything was okay. As he got to Jerry's home, Gregory noticed that the door was slightly open, so he let himself in. Instantly, Gregory knew that something was off, as he saw that Jerry's motorcycle was missing and that the television had been moved. Hoping to find his friend alive and well, he started going through the house, looking inside every room. But devastatingly, Gregory stumbled upon the most horrific sight. Inside one of the spare bedrooms, Gregory found the body of his friend Jerry Dean, and close by was the body of a woman with a 3-foot-long pickaxe protruding from her heart. Who could have committed these brutal murders, and would they ever be found to face justice for their heinous actions, which I can't even fathom what this poor guy has just witnessed. Like, imagine coming home, finding that your door is open, so you're like, probably he's like, oh yeah, so obviously my friend must be home because, you know, the door's open, otherwise it's a bit weird, like it would be scary. So obviously he's looking for his friend, and imagine just, you know, noticing some odd things like a motorbike's gone, the TV's been moved, but then like trying to find your roommate and then finding her like that. Like, I can't even imagine how much of a shock and a horror that seeing your friend lying dead, and then also another woman around her with a pickaxe literally coming out of her chest. Like, it's like a scene from a horror movie. It's just unfathomable. Following the gruesome discovery, Gregory immediately called the police, and they quickly arrived at the scene. Police were able to identify the two victims as 27-year-old cable installer Jerry Lynn Dean and 32-year-old office worker Deborah Ruth Thornton. Both had been bludgeoned to death. Jerry's toolkit and garden tools had obviously been rummaged through, and not only was the pickaxe found protruding from Deborah's body, but a hammer was found close to Jerry. Jerry had suffered some serious blunt force trauma to his head, as well as a broken neck. It was clear that both victims had been aggressively struck with a pickaxe, with each victim enduring more than 20 blows. So this literally just, not only is it obviously an awful scene and an awful thing, but on top of that, it just shows that whoever has committed this crime is just so evil. Like, when you think about someone literally going, not only like that, but going into someone's house and rummaging through all their tools and everything, like this person was, you know, really thorough taking their time, but also 20 blows, and it's not just one person, it's two victims. Like, this person obviously has such hatred in that it's like pure evil to do something like this, because he is literally, because whoever is like, obviously is just super evil and has a lot of hatred in them, who like attack that much and that goes like that aggressively. The crime scene woman called Karla Faye Tucker. When questioned by police, Karla readily admitted that she hated Jerry Dean. Okay, that's not suspicious at all. Like, this guy hung out with them, he hung out with her and this group of friends, and the fact that she's saying to the police, oh yeah, I hate him. Like, what? Just come out with it, why don't you? But definitely ringing alarm bells for someone to say that when they're supposedly hanging out and friends. So I'm like, what? In 1980, Jerry had started dating Karla's friend and roommate, a woman called Sean, and twice Karla had thrown Jerry out of her apartment after his motorcycle dripped oil on the living room rug. Okay, I get why that might make you angry, but like, throwing someone out and going to that extreme and then obviously ending up brutally killing them is... this is an understatement that it is way blown out of proportion. In retaliation for Karla kicking him out of the house, Jerry Dean defaced some of Karla's photo albums, including the only photo she had of her mother. See, yeah, okay. If that's the only photo you have of your mom, that is a low blow. To be honest, it's a bit bad. A bit of a low blow. I mean, it might not have known that was the last photo, but even so, it's just like, it's kind of like tit for tat. And they're supposed to be both adults, but anyway. Following this incident, Karla hit him in the face very hard, breaking his glasses and causing the glass to enter his eye. And he had to go to hospital. Jeez. Police then learned that Karla was dating a man called Daniel Garrett, and Daniel just happened to know one of the detectives at the police station, Detective J.C. Musier. Detective J.C. Musier wanted to find out if Daniel Garrett was involved with the killings, so he arranged for a woman who's a mutual friend to call Daniel's brother Doug to try and find more information. In less than half an hour, the woman called Detective J.C. Musier back and said that Doug was in tears and wanted to talk to him. Detective J.C. Musier quickly went over to Doug's house to talk to him, and he was there with his own girlfriend, Carrie, who just happened to be Karla Faye Tucker's older sister. This is getting a bit confusing now, so okay. Let's go back because this is getting a bit confusing. So they learned that Karla was dating this man called Daniel, and he knows one of the police officers. And then Daniel basically wanted to find out, the police officer wanted to find out if Daniel was involved. So he arranged for a woman who was a mutual friend to call Daniel's brother, Daniel's brother Doug. But then the woman called the detective back and said that Doug was in tears for some reason, and then he went over to Doug's house to talk to him, and he was there with his girlfriend, who happened to be this Carrie, who happened to be Karla's older sister. A bit weird. Doug claimed that his brother Daniel was involved in the murders, alongside Daniel's girlfriend Karla Faye Tucker. It seems like they've got a lot of connections in the police department as well, a lot of friends. As it turned out, immediately after the killings, Karla and Daniel went over to has low self-esteem and low worth, and she doesn't feel worthy. The influence of others, peer pressure. My sisters were into drugs and they had a friend who was older. They always hung around with other people. There was a lot of drugs, okay. So basically she hung out with her sister because her sister was, obviously she looked up to her sisters because they were pretty. That's how she felt. So obviously she was taking drugs because they were sort of always taking drugs, so she thought, oh, it's fine. So she didn't obviously have the best role models around her. Her mother was also not a good influence on her children. There was an instance when Carolyn caught Karla sneaking marijuana in her bedroom, and instead of telling her off, her mother instructed her on the fine art of rolling. So basically, literally all her family members, apart from my dad, because he was always away anyway, but all three women in her life, her role models, were basically taking drugs and allowing this behaviour at such a young age, which is absolutely just crazy. In her early teens, Karla started hanging out with an older crowd, and her first contact with sex came when she was 12, and she became a prostitute at age 14. When she was very young, her mother told her she could grow up to become anything, but her mother also gave her little guidance and encouraged her to be a prostitute as a teenager. My mother took me to a place where there was all men and wanted to school me in the art of being a cool girl. I wanted to please my mother so much. I wanted her to be proud of me, so instead of saying no, I just tried to do what she asked. The thing is, I knew deep down inside that what I was doing was wrong. So basically she obviously wanted to please her mom, because as a mom, these are all her role models who she looks up to, like I was saying, and it's sad. It's really sad. At the end of the day, at 14, you should be still a teenager. You should still be a child, you know, doing child things and hanging out with your friends and, you know, still having that innocence. And the fact that she had to grow up, like, at such a young age into an adult is just, I don't know, it's just not, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just sad. Around this time, Karla also started showing signs of aggression. At 14, she attacked one of her fellow classmates, leaving her with 2 black eyes, and a year later, at 15, she got into a fight with a man and a woman. Karla dropped out of school in the middle of the 7th grade without much parental disapproval, and when Karla was 16, she met and married a mechanic named Stephen Griffiths. Yet again, this little girl has not had a teenage life. She's not had a chance to be young and do all the fun things. She's had to basically grow up, and now she's married as well at 16 at such a young age. On the surface, the marriage appeared happy, but behind closed doors they fought constantly. We fist fought a lot. I've never had men hit me as hard as she did. Whenever I went into a bar, I didn't have to worry because she had my back covered. And this is coming from the guy that she was married to. He didn't even need, like, this girl was stronger than men. Like, you know what I mean? Like, other than men. And she could basically have that much. I'm guessing it's all pent up aggression and anger. She is pent it all up because she's had, like I say, had no good role model. She's had to grow up without having a childhood, and it's sad. And it's basically all of this pent up aggression is basically like a ticking time bomb, and it's boiling up inside of her, and she is having outbursts, like I say, like getting into fights and things with people. Karla was unhappy in this marriage and desired the freedom to live as she pleased, leading to the couple's separation. At the age of 20, her mother passed away on Christmas Eve due to the effects of drug abuse, and around this time she began associating with bikers. During this period she met her friend Sean, who later married Jerry Lindy, and so this is how the two obviously got to know each other, because her friend married him. Sean and Jerry subsequently introduced arrested Daniel Garrett in 1981. Karla and Daniel immediately hit it off, quickly becoming a couple. Daniel allowed Karla to do as she pleased, didn't question her job as a prostitute. However, the relationship was unhealthy, constantly fueled by drugs and alcohol. On the evening of the 12th of June 1983, Karla, her sister Carrie, Carrie's ex-husband Ronnie, Daniel Garrett and their friend James Librand gathered at Karla's home to celebrate Carrie's birthday. After Carrie and Ronnie left between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. the next day, Karla, Daniel and Ronnie and James departed after some partying, which included the ingestion of pills, marijuana, speed and alcohol. They headed straight to Jerry Dean's apartment, and obviously because she's had these fights and things with Jerry, we all know this is not going to end well, and they've obviously been under the influence of they've got so many different drugs and alcohol things going on in their system as well, and she's got all this pent up anger and aggression. It's just obviously not a good combination, and it is going to explode. Karla had mentioned her intention to visit Jerry's apartment to collect some money and intimidate him. She suggested that if he didn't pay up, they would steal his motorcycle, TV and stereo. So this is obviously why the motorcycle was stolen and they moved the TV, I'm guessing. Karla had secretly taken the keys to Jerry's home. Okay, so this is how she got in, so she locked it then. So there was no like I said, there was no forced entry. The police didn't, with the robber or anything. So, and this woman secretly taking her best friend's or her friend's partner's keys. It's really weird to his house. Sean earlier on enabling them to enter the property. Sean and Jerry had recently broken up after Jerry had assaulted her. So Karla's anger towards Jerry had escalated. Okay, so obviously she's seen a friend and she knows her friend's been, abused by this guy. So obviously it's even worse now. They must have done these things to each other like tit for tat, but now he's also affected her friend and that's going to affect her. By the way, I'm not saying it's right what she's doing or what he did. Vice versa, it is just both bad. 2 weeks prior, she'd even mentioned the idea of offing Jerry. When she and Daniel entered the apartment bedroom, they found Jerry asleep in the spare room. Karla turned on the light and jumped onto Jerry, saying, "Don't move, motherfucker, or you're dead." So she's stolen this guy's keys, and now she's going to his house and he's asleep. And imagine getting woken up by some random person jumping on you saying, "Don't move, otherwise you're dead." Like, you would be terrified and in a state of shock, because literally when you get woken up from your sleep, obviously you're all confused and not properly. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone can just. It takes a minute or so to, to wake up. You're not like fully prepared. As Jerry Dean awoke in utter shock, he grabbed Karla to try to push her off. At that moment, Daniel picked up a hammer and started hitting Jerry in the back of the head. Jerry began begging for his life. After being struck several times by the hammer, Jerry Dean started making a gurgling noise as his lungs filled with blood. Karla, annoyed by the noise, looked around the room, spotted one of Jerry's work tools on the floor, a pickaxe. Karla picked up the pickaxe and began attacking Jerry with it. So she's apparently annoyed because he's making gurgling noises. It's like he's literally just been hit over the head. Like, how can you expect him to just, and that is her excuse for attacking him as many times as she did, literally pure psychopath, pure serial killer, pure evil. James immediately ran out in complete shock and called his friend Ronnie to come and pick him up. Karla and Daniel then noticed a woman hiding under some sheets in the bedroom because she had seen them know their names. They decided to kill her as well. So this poor woman wasn't even involved, and because she'd witnessed it and they spotted her, she ended up dying as well, which is just... Deborah Thornton was then attacked by Karla with the big axe, and she was slowly bludgeoned to death. At one point, the pain was so unbearable for Deborah that she pleaded with the pair of them to just kill her quickly, which is just... it is absolutely awful. That poor woman, like, both of them, but this is how, like, she was in so much pain and they just was laughing, smiling while she was suffering, and she just wanted it to be over. So she was like, just, you know, get it over with, which is just heartbreaking because they was trying to make it last and they was enjoying its pure sadism. A few hours later, in the early morning of the 13th of June at 6:30 a.m, Karla and Daniel showed up at Doug's home in Jerry's truck. After unloading a motorcycle frame from the back of the vehicle, Karla said, "We offered Jerry Dean last night." So she's literally, like I say, getting a kick out of this, and she's just proudly blurting it out to everyone that she knows what she's done. Despite Doug's utter horror what his brother and her girlfriend had done, he initially allowed them to hide part of the motorcycle in his garage, which he later got rid of, so he's literally an accessory to murder now. Karla also handed him Jerry's wallet, which he immediately burned in an ashtray. They also managed to get James Librand and Ronnie to help get rid of Jerry's truck. So basically they are also asking them to help, despite James running away from the scene of the crime. Later that evening, Karla and Daniel were watching television when the news came up with the story about the murders. Upon seeing this, they laughed and giggled, claiming they were famous, and began bragging about more and more about the murders to their siblings, Doug and Carrie, which is just disgusting and awful. And I get it's your brother and your sister, but the fact that they are just sitting there and they are not saying anything, and they're not saying anything about to the police or anything is absolutely disgusting. To be honest, it's like, why don't all of you literally go to hell, literally get sent down, period, because they are all helping. I'm sorry, it's not peer pressure, because they are grown adults and they are seeing what their family has done and they're just allowing it just because it's their family. And it's like, I'm sorry, but no, even if they're your family, it is wrong. You know right from wrong, and this is sadistic and disgusting how they can sit there and watch their siblings laugh after they literally took the lives of two innocent people. I will never understand that mindset, because it is just pure evil. Karla even gave her sister Carrie Deborah's wallet as a birthday present. Are you serious? What? She's not even worried that the police are going to find this. She's literally just sitting back relaxing, having a bloody jolly good time. She is that cocky and confident. She's literally just doesn't care. She's literally putting these victims' belongings and giving them to her family. Like, what? At this point, Carrie was completely horrified and terrified by her sister's actions. She immediately got rid of the wallet and moved out of her sister's done stuff to him before to his motorbike, and I think it's a lot of pent up anger, like I said, and hatred, not just for him, but also for what she's gone through in life, which, yet again, I'm not justifying her actions, but what I'm saying is, it's all this pent up aggression and anger that she's had to suppress over the years, on top of, you know, not liking this guy. Defence called no witnesses, and the jury retired for only 70 minutes before convicting Karla of capital murder. The trial then entered the penalty phase, and the defence called a psychiatrist who testified that Karla told her she had been taking drugs since the age of 9. She described Karla's state of mind to the court, how Karla had not slept in 3 days and how she had been taking drugs and drinking on the night of the killings. The psychiatrist also told the judge that she didn't think it likely that Karla had derived sexual pleasure from the killings, even though she had boasted about having done so on the White app. I'm sorry, but like, why would she say that if she isn't? I think she has got pleasure out of it. Like, why would she just say that for no reason? And also, I get, yeah, she's been taking drugs and stuff, and I know it can do a lot of things, a lot of damage, like I said before at the start, because she's so young, but it's like, it still doesn't make you go on and kill people that brutally. Karla took the stand in her own defence and gave a version of the events, which we never know is a good thing if you try and, you know, not have a lawyer or anyone to help you, and you're just, I'll do it myself. It never usually goes well. Telling the jury that she did not film the killings will reorder her. I did not see the bodies. I did not remember seeing any holes or any blood. But the defence was weak, and with all the overwhelming evidence, after deliberating for nearly 3 hours on the 25th of April 1984, the jury recommended that Karla be sentenced to death by lethal injection. Karla Faye was convicted and sentenced to death at age 24, and she was sent to live on the woman's death row in 1984. Daniel Garrett was tried separately, and he was also convicted and sentenced to death in November of 1984. However, he subsequently died of liver damage on death row in 1993 because of how much alcohol and drugs were taken. Karla stated that as she waited trial in the Harris County Jail, her mind began to clear from years of drug abuse, and through meetings with jail ministry workers she found religion and inner peace. During her time in prison, Karla embraced Christianity and found solace in her faith, and she even married a prison minister named Dana Brown by proxy in 1995. In an interview with CNN's Larry King while on death row at Texas Mountain View Unit in Gatesville, Karla revealed that in the fall of 1983, she stole a Bible after a prison ministry program, took it to her cell, and began to read, ultimately coming to terms with the gravity of her actions. She said, "I didn't know what I was reading, and before I knew it, I was in the middle of my floor on my knees, and I was just asking God to forgive me." And when she referred to her cruel actions on that fateful day, she said, I can't make sense out of it. I didn't care about anybody, I didn't care about myself." She added that at the time, it was inevitable that something like that was going to happen in my life, given her circumstances. She said, "I not only didn't walk around without any guilt, I was proud, thinking that I finally measured up to the big boys." However, citing a newfound faith and clean prison record, Karla argued that she no longer met the criteria for being sentenced to death in Texas, as in her opinion, she no longer posed a threat to society. I'm sorry, girl, but I don't give a you found God, because you are going to hell. I'm sorry, but you are literally evil. You brutally murdered people, and I truly believe she is. She's literally a psychopath, and she's that clever that in her mind she is like playing into this, making out she's changed. Girl, no. Karla expressed her desire to live in order to minister to other prisoners who were similarly lost, stating that she not only rejected the death penalty but also opposed innocent woman. If there is a change for the positive and it's proven and it's factual, why can't that be considered? Many people question the sincerity of Karla's newfound belief in God, pondering whether she viewed a newfound faith solely as a better chance for salvation. Regardless of Karla's sincerity, public opinion is divided on whether the execution should proceed. The case even divided the families of the victims. Deborah Thornton's brother Ron Carlson advocated for Karla to be spared and participated in rallies at the state capitol in Austin urging for clemency, which I don't know how families can be like that. I get it, but like, you've literally killed his sister, and it takes a strong person to forgive someone like that, and I hold my hands up to him. Like, you know, it's a good thing, but it's just like, I think, no, I'm sorry, but she gave his sister no mercy, so why should she get the same, you know? Why should she get different? Why should she be saved? On the other hand, Deborah's widowed husband Richard believed the matter wasn't as straightforward as sparing Karla from execution. He expressed frustration with the portrayal of Karla as missing. Although she and her attorneys had played down a gender in their many pleas for clemency, the fact that she was a woman helped arouse international interest in her cause and generate appeals for mercy from figures including Pope John Paul II and religious broadcaster Pat Robertson. The European Union's Parliament passed a resolution asking that a sentence be commuted to life in prison with no parole, but this was denied. After the board's ruling, Karla's only hope was with the US Supreme Court, which turned down 2 appeals. In an extra bid to try and save her life, she sent a letter to George W. Bush on the 18th of January 1998, of which some extracts were published. She said, "I am in no way attempting to minimize the brutality of my crime. It obviously was very, very horrible, and I do take full responsibility for what happened. I also know that justice and law demand my life for the 2 innocent lives I brutally murdered that night. If my execution is the only thing, the final act that can fulfill the demand for restitution and justice, then I accept that. I will pay the price for what I did in any way our law demands it. I was advised by my attorneys to plead not guilty, and I was trusting their legal expertise. They knew I murdered Jerry and Deborah. I did not lie to them about it. I am in fact guilty, very guilty. I used to try and blame my mother because she was my role model, and she fashioned and shaped me into what I was at an early age. I no longer try to lay the blame on my mother or on society. I don't blame drugs either. When I say that I was out of it on drugs and I brutally murdered 2 people, I fully realised that I made the choice to do those drugs. Had I chosen not to do drugs, there would be 2 people still alive today." Again, I just don't believe the thing of like, I'm just going to blame it all on drugs, because at the end of the day, she had pent up anger and aggression. Like I said, she had repressed emotions since she was a child. It was in October, 3 months after I had been locked up, when a ministry came to the jail and I went to the services that night, accepting Jesus into my heart. 14 years ago, I was part of the problem. Now I am part of the solution. I have proposed to do right for the last 14 years, not because I am in prison, but because my God demands this of me. I know right from wrong and I must do right. I don't really understand the guidelines for commutation of death sentences, but I can promise you this: if you commute my sentence to life, I will continue for the rest of my life in this earth to reach out to others to make a positive difference in on the screen and said, "Baby, I love you. Everybody's been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I'm going to be face to face with Jesus now. Warden Baggett, thank all of you so much. You have been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I will see you all when you get there. I will wait for you." Karla then closed her eyes and seemed to move her lips in silent prayer. And at 6:45 p.m, 38-year-old Karla Faye died of lethal injection. It took her 8 minutes to die. Officials with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice said that Karla also could have requested a sedative, but did not. Karla became the first woman executed in Texas since the Civil War, and only the second in the United States since the resumption of the death penalty in 1976. Outside the prison, there were demonstrations from both pro and anti-capital punishment groups. Several hundred individuals representing both sides of the debate gathered behind yellow police lines. Some signs read things like "Bye bye Karla Faye" and "Forget injection, use a pickaxe." But other signs read things like "I'm ashamed to be a Texan" and "Jesus loves Karla Faye and so do I." Cheers went up from the pro-execution crowd when her death was announced. After her execution, her husband stepped down and said a few words to the press, as did Deborah's brother Ronald Carlson, who would have been against the death sentence. Regardless of your stance on this case, whether you think Karla was just putting on a show and still truly to deserve the death sentence, or whether you believe she should have been forgiven and allowed to be granted clemency, the people we must always remember are the victims. They were not just names in legal proceedings, they were real people with dreams, hopes and loved ones who deeply mourn their loss. So I'll finish off this case as usual by saying rest in peace Jerry Dean and Deborah Thornton. It's the end of this case. I mean, my thoughts, like I say, I don't know if I believe in the death penalty, like I said. I don't know, maybe she should have just got life and parole. Without parole, like, I think she should have just stayed in prison, basically. Like, I don't think she wanted to get out necessarily. I think she just wanted to not die, obviously. But I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Personally, I don't know whether she was putting on an act, but it just seems a bit weird how all of a sudden you can just change. Like, she had a lot of bad influences around her, I get that. But it's just the whole blaming it on drugs thing. Like, I get it, but at the same time, she was on drugs since 9 years old, and it's like, how can they suddenly make you into a killer when, you know, at the start, do you know what I mean? Because your body gets used to things in a way. Obviously, she's still young, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. But like I say, it's about the victims at the end of the day, remembering them, and I just think taking someone's life and then just saying, "Oh my god, well, mine should be spared," is just a bit much, because it's like, well, you didn't spare their lives, you literally evil, like just horrendously murdered these two innocent people. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys, and I always thank you